Hi guys, welcome to the Rule of Two, where the Star Wars news saga continues. I'm Terrence, and just as I do always, I'm back here to talk about another episode of the Disney Plus series Ahsoka. And if you've been watching this channel for some time now, then you always know that I like to give my thoughts on the episode right after the episode. So forgive me if I seem a little bit scatterbrained, or I may forget some names or some pertinent details of the episode. It's really, I'm kind of going off the top of my head right now and just kind of telling you all my feelings and a few little bit of information that I kind of jotted down while I was watching the show. So this is episode 4 is pretty much the mid-season of this series. I think the episodes of the series are probably only going to be about 6 episodes. So when they aired the first 2 back to back and then 3, so this kind of feels like the mid-season episode for the series. But it's probably, as every mid-season one of the best episodes that they've done so far. Not so much because one of the biggest things I've been saying about Ahsoka is that the action has been so great, and it doesn't ever feel like there's any type of down or kind of like lagging or dragging time in every episode of Ahsoka. Everything always seems to be pretty fast paced. And one of the best things that happened with this is that we meet back up with the crew of Hu Yang. I think I got the name right this time because I always get a lot of criticism about how I keep mispronouncing names. Hu Yang, Sabine, and Ahsoka back on the ship as they're trying to make repairs because they're basically stranded at this point on the planet. And from the repairs, they go right into our first action scene where we see Hu Yang get attacked while he's outside fixing the ship by more assassin droids. I kind of feel like they must have an endless budget of assassin droids because they never seem to run out of them. It seems like they should just send like a whole platoon like they did back in episode 1, The Phantom Menace, where like, look, let's just send out all of our robots and just beat them in sheer numbers. But they keep sending out these waves or 1 or 2 at a time, and then they just get quickly beat down. So with Ahsoka and Sabine coming out to the rescue of Hu Yang, we got to see some great fight scenes. We got to see a little bit more Jedi from Sabine and kind of showing what she's putting the training that Ahsoka has been putting her through to the test, and actually doing pretty well against the assassin droids. Ahsoka gets out and kind of lays waste to everybody on the field. Now, it actually made me think maybe Ahsoka should have been our character for the sequel trilogy, because there seems to be a lot more connection with us as the fans for Ahsoka than we actually ever had for Rey, and it always made sense. I mean, it makes more sense to say that Ahsoka has this type of training and can be that badass that Rey was in the sequel trilogy. But I got my thoughts on what they want to do with Ahsoka, and I'll mention that towards the end of the video. So, after that happens, we get into another action scene. The other action scene is going to be more of a duel, where we're going to get the Battle of the Apprentices, where we're going to get Sabine versus Shin, and we're going to get Ahsoka versus Marok. One of these ways has got to be the right way to say this. Kind of facing off. And the reason why I call him possibly an apprentice, because we all know the ongoing theory that he may be Starkiller. And that's been maybe proven because of Sam Witwer is listed in the credits, and he's done voice work on the show, but it hasn't been confirmed yet that he is Starkiller. And since there is a mask, they seem to be hiding him for some particular reason. But it's not like Sam Witwer hasn't done more things for Star Wars in general. So his name actually does appear in a couple of other things. I believe also in Mandalorian, where there's no Starkiller in Mandalorian. So he is just a part of Star Wars, and he's been doing a lot of work with his voice talents. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not Starkiller, but it also means that he may not be Starkiller. But there's another theory with that one I also like to talk about, and that's that he might be possibly Luke. But we'll get onto that in a second. I know that sounds weird, but we'll get onto it in a second. So the battle between the apprentices, awesome battle. We get to Sabine once again going up against Shin, doing better than when she got wasted in the last episode. Obviously the training is helping out. She's holding her own, and we get to see Ahsoka versus Merrick. I think it's Merrick. And we get to see them, and once again, Ahsoka is a complete badass. She actually slices down Merrick, and a plume of gas or a soul, I don't know what you want to call it, kind of sprays from his body as he falls down. Now, we all know Star Wars. Unless they say they're dead, you could get a serious injury and still come back in Star Wars. AKA, watch the previous episode when Sabine got stabbed in the stomach, got repaired, got healed, and was back out there. Luke lost a hand. Everybody loses hands in Star Wars. By the way, nobody's lost a hand yet in this series yet. I'm assuming that's coming sooner or later. But you lose stuff, you get stabbed, you get back, you fight another day. But the mist that escapes him is a question. So that's what makes me think I kind of like the other theory where Merrick may actually be a clone of Luke. Maybe that's why he doesn't seem to follow that they're both apprentices of Baylan Skoll. And why they're hiding his face is because they didn't want to show you that it's actually Luke under there, or at least a clone of Luke. Which, because we know that towards the Legends books, they had cloned Luke before, basically like off of his DNA, and there's a hand out there that's floating somewhere. So that's my thoughts with that. Now, as we move a little bit forward, because they go from action scene to action scene to action scene, because the battle and I'm sorry, once again, after the episode, the stakes keep raising, and Ahsoka goes on to go and stop the whole map loading with Morgan Elsbeth and Baylan Skoll. Once she goes there, we get to finally see their face-off, where we see Baylan Skoll versus Ahsoka, and that fight, a little underwhelming, I gotta say, because obviously I don't think that Baylan Skoll can move as well as we would like him at this age, and it would always go from kind of some stiff swordplay to some over-the-top action where you definitely knew you were looking at stuntmen. So it was kind of up and down, and I was a little disappointed of it, except for the simple fact that it showed me that Ahsoka may not be, obviously is not a full trained Jedi, or at least she walked away from her training, but she does have some of that Anakin element under her, because in every other thing with Yoda, always told them as Jedi to, like, you know, defend first, never be the attacker or the aggressor, and she comes out as the aggressor, and Baylan Skoll is the one who's kind of on defense, knowing that he's a Jedi. He kind of sits back on his ways, so it does show a flaw in Ahsoka in that aspect. As they come out, she does see we jump back to Sabine and Shin in their battle, and once again Sabine's beaten because she is not as highly trained, and she doesn't wield the Force as well as all the other Jedis or people who were in this particular situation wielding the Force, and she loses again. But this time she falls back on the fact that she's a Mandalorian, and Mandalorians will always use their weapons when in need. So she actually comes out the victor in this when Shin runs away. Shin goes back and joins Baylan, freaks out Ahsoka. Ahsoka slams her against the wall, which I thought was the best, because once again, that shows her aggression and rage, because she has those inner feelings, and her love and care for Sabine, she is lashing out. So I wonder if they're trying to show an arc for her where maybe she is now falling towards the dark side in this. So it's an interesting take as far as where her character may be going. Now, when Sabine does show up, kind of stops the battle, takes the map, shows that that she can destroy it, and against Ahsoka's wishes, she doesn't destroy it, and Ahsoka gets knocked off a cliff. I know I'm kind of breezing through this, but you guys gonna have to watch the episode to kind of really get the details of what's going on. But the major takeaway with this is that, one, who knew Baylan Skoll was a badass and that could actually beat Ahsoka? Two, what the hell would Sabine give up the map for? I know they were really trying to push on her relationship with Ezra, but in the face of everything, knowing that Ahsoka just flew off the cliff, why on earth would you give them the map? Even if they take you along like he promised to do, you're still going to be a prisoner, or you're going to change to his side. Is that what you really want to do, and is that what you want how to go? So that one kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and I know that they'll maybe try to show some type of plan that she may have had, or some life lesson that was learned out of here, or some redemption into this. Or they could do the cool thing and just make her bad and then say that, hey, this was her part of switching sides. I like when they do the unexpected and not the things that I do expect. Now, we kind of jump to where Hera and the rest of the X-Wing squadron comes to kind of show support. In this moment, since we have Morgan Elsbeth on this big new super star destroyer that can achieve this super far distance hyperspace. They do a cool thing that they actually did in the sequel trilogy, is that sometimes there just needs to be collateral damage. And a lot of times in Star Wars, if it's not a ship battle or a gunfight or something like that, they maneuver out of each other's way, and everybody just takes off to hyperspace once they get cleared. They blow straight through this whole squadron, and I thought that was one of the coolest things, even though they didn't do as much damage as they actually did, and it wasn't as cool as they did in the sequel trilogy. But damn it, it was really awesome to see it on screen, because I didn't think that was going to happen. And when it happened, I was like, all right, cool. There's some stakes. They're taking chances with things in here. And even though we lost some unnamed X-Wing fighter pilots, it was still cool to see that we can take some real damage in this. All right. Final part of this episode, which this was one of the longer episodes, which I'm really, really glad, because a lot of good information came out of this, is that we got to see Ahsoka laying in some sort of purgatory. And here is where I'm like, damn it, dude, do I just really need to watch Rebels before I finish this show? Because they reference the world between worlds. I had to look this up because I did not know it. I only know from clips that I may have seen online about referencing it, but I had no idea what it was going. But in the world between worlds, it's kind of like a force area that's in between space and time. We get to see her kind of talk and commune with Anakin, which is really, really great. I'm really glad that Hayden Christensen is back, and I will hope to see that this conversation is going to be something that we really get to take out of their relationship together, and may possibly see him again in another flashback. I don't want this to just be his only part. I want him to do more. Maybe we get to see a flashback to when they were training before. So those were the main things that happened in the episode. Once again, overall, a very, very, very good episode. I know I kind of breezed through the episode because I don't want to talk you to death about it when you guys can watch it. I want this whole thoughts to be longer than the actual episode was. But I wanted to say how much I really enjoyed this episode, and I wanted to bring up a couple things. So I brought up the fact about the Star Killer rumor, and I brought up the fact about the Luke rumor. But in looking at the episode, I was kind of looking at what maybe they were trying to set up, where we see Baylan Skoll and his apprentice Shin. And if Merrick is actually Star Killer, I kind of feel like maybe Baylan Skoll is being positioned to be this series' new Vader. And maybe Morgan Elsbeth is kind of like Tarkin. And obviously with Thrawn being the heir to the Empire, he is now our new Emperor. So it had a lot of parallels to the previous Star Wars, or the previous trilogy, and it really kind of stood out to me. And is that what they're doing with me? Is that what they're doing with this show? Trying to set those same parallels to kind of make things familiar and like really give you the same vibes they gave you in the previous trilogy, in the original trilogy. Also, too, another thing that I found out is a rumor. The whales, the star whales or space whales or whatever they were, I found out that they actually travel intergalactically, or interdimensional, not interdimensional. They travel between galaxies. And since we have a ship that is now being shut off further in the distance, is this going to be the way that we actually get her to follow Morgan Elsbeth now? Is it going to be with the whales? Which seems kind of weird, but it's Star Wars. I really can't complain too much. But also, too, another theory was out there is that Star Wars is using this show to shift to kind of explain exactly why these particular characters weren't in the sequel trilogy, that they may not have been dead, but maybe they were just in another galaxy far, far away, I guess. Which would actually be cool, because then they can kind of start a whole new trilogy kind of going forward, set aside from what actually happened in the sequel trilogy. In a way, kind of retconning without retconning, I guess. Just kind of saying, don't look over here, look over here. All right, that's all I got to say about this particular episode. Hopefully I'll get an opportunity to really go back and talk about different rumors and theories that we have going out there. I just don't want to make these episodes too long. I know you guys don't really care about me talking that much. Go out and watch the episode, see how great it is. So if it's first time you're on the channel, I don't know why you start watching with episode 4, But if it is the first time that you're on the channel and you somehow stumbled across us, make sure you subscribe as well as click the notification button so that way you're aware of all the other videos and you can keep up to date with me going forward with the Ahsoka series. Alright, so with that being said, you guys take care. Actually, no, that's not right. With that being said, may the Force be with you. Always.
Wait, guys, are you still here? I'm glad you're still here. All right, so if you look down, I mean, it's somewhere over here. Look down. We actually have a Patreon. So if you guys watch the show and you really like what we want to do and you want to help support the show and you want to help me get an editor so I can get to sleep at night because I'm really tired and you guys see all my mistakes in the episodes. So please go to patreon.com/thegoods. Give us a penny, give us a nickel, give us $1.
Just don't give us the finger.
Don't do that. But make sure you do donate something because we do have some giveaways. There's posters, there's t-shirts.
I'll sign something for you.
Exactly. So take a look, guys, and help us out. We appreciate it.